What would you do if you heard something digging beneath your bedroom floor? The sound of something scraping, scratching, clawing its way through the dark, never stopping, never resting. At first you might convince yourself it's just a rat. A rodent, perhaps, finding its way into your home, desperate to make its nest. Or maybe, just maybe, it's your imagination playing tricks on you. But what if it's something far worse? Something far darker, something far more dangerous? Bailey never thought he'd be caught in such a nightmare. His life was already shattered when his older brother, Kyle, mysteriously vanished. His father, broken by grief, locked away every trace of Kyle, treating him like a forgotten memory, like a ghost. The bed remained made. The hockey gear was still neatly hung in the closet. Even the deodorant on Kyle's nightstand, cracked and dried, stayed exactly where it had always been. But something else remained, something far darker, something deep within the walls of their house. Bailey thought he was safe, hiding from the world in his own room. But what if the danger wasn't out there? What if it was beneath him? Beneath his very floorboards, waiting, watching. One night while he lay in bed, the scratching began. Not just a faint noise, but a deliberate, relentless sound, a scraping, a digging. It was a sound that didn't belong, a sound that didn't stop, no matter how hard he tried to ignore it. When Bailey finally lifted the floorboard in desperation, hoping to silence whatever was hiding beneath, he uncovered something far worse than he could ever imagine. Something had been waiting for him, and it wasn't just trapped in the dirt. It had been watching him, waiting. But even worse, it wanted out. And soon Bailey would find out that the thing that took Kyle, his brother, was still alive, still lurking in the darkness below. The thing that took Kyle wasn't done. It had its sights set on Bailey now. The whispers, the voices, the things that shouldn't be there. The phone, the messages. Don't trust him. Was it the thing beneath the floor that was digging? Or was there something far more sinister at play here? Something Bailey had never considered. Something he should have never let out. What Bailey uncovered beneath the floor wasn't just an old secret. It was a terrifying, waking nightmare that would soon consume him whole. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a nightmare that might just become your reality. It's digging beneath my bedroom. My dad never let me own a phone. He'd already lost one son to an online predator, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. I tried to explain that I wasn't like Kyle. I didn't want to meet up with strangers or get caught in some sketchy chat room. All I wanted was to message my friends and watch dumb videos on the bus. But Dad wouldn't have it. After Kyle vanished, everything changed. It was like the house froze in time the moment the police closed the case. We never sold Kyle's things. His bed stayed made. His closet was still filled with his shirts and hockey gear. Even the old deodorant stick on his nightstand, dried and cracked, stayed put. Sometimes I caught Dad sitting there in the dark, just looking at it. Since Kyle disappeared, I barely left my room. The energy in the house felt wrong, heavy and sharp, like breathing through broken glass. I only ever came out when I absolutely had to. Bathroom, Quick Mart, or when it was my turn to take out the trash. When dinner was ready, I waited until Dad finished eating before grabbing my plate. It was easier that way. No questions. No chewing sounds to pick apart. No muttered jabs like, "What? Not good enough for you?" Kyle used to shield me from that. When Dad got angry, Kyle stepped in. Took the heat. Took the blame. Once I knocked over a can of red paint in the garage. Kyle said it was him. Took a full-on beating for it. Told anyone who asked about the bruise under his eye that it came from a puck during practice. I never got to thank him. That's the kind of memory that sticks like gum under your ribs. Anyway, I worked part-time bagging groceries at the Quick Mart. Saved every dollar. No snacks, no games, no weekend hangs. After 3 months, I scraped together $200. Enough to buy a cheap Motorola smartphone from Devin, one of the older guys at school. It was used and had a couple cracks on the corner of the screen, but it worked. I set up a burner Gmail, added a few friends, installed Spotify, YouTube, Reddit. I even made this profile. I couldn't risk Dad finding it, though. So I pried up a floorboard beneath the bed, Kyle's old bed, and hid it there. Taped a string to the underside to lift it out easier. I had to keep reminding myself, this is my room now, not ours, not his, mine. It didn't feel that way. With internet access finally mine, I did the one thing I knew I shouldn't. I Googled Kyle's name. Articles, forums, old missing persons posts. Most were dead threads, comments from strangers offering thoughts and prayers. But one caught my eye. A headline on a janky news site with a black background and red text. Father investigated in missing child's case. Click. The article had one blurry photo, Dad stepping out of or into his Lexus. The story didn't say much, just that new evidence had surfaced, and the case might reopen. Nothing specific. No quotes. I didn't hear the footsteps until they were halfway up the stairs. I dropped the phone into the hole and yanked the floorboard shut. Dad leaned in my doorway, slurring. G-night, Bailey. I sat up, heart pounding. He smelled like old cigarettes and the cheap whiskey he used to sneak before the divorce. Good night, Dad, I said. I hesitated. Is there any new information on Kyle? His face changed. Not angry, not sad, just blank, like I'd spoken in a language he didn't understand. You know the rule, I said. We don't talk about him. It's not for you to worry about. He left the door open. Always open. Like I was a dog he needed to keep an eye on. That night I woke to a sound. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It wasn't loud, but it was steady, rhythmic. Nails on something soft or a shovel in dirt. I turned toward the corner of the room. Nothing. Then I looked at the floorboard, the one I'd hidden the phone under. The sound stopped. I stared at the board. The silence was worse than the sound, like it had paused just for me, like it knew I was listening. I slid out of bed, crawled across the floor, ear to the wood. Scritch, scritch, scritch. I pulled away. It wasn't a rat. I know what rats sound like. This wasn't skittering. This was digging. Fingers dragging through dirt. Climbing up. I leapt back into bed, blanket over my head, trembling. I told myself I imagined it, that it was the wind, pipes, a neighbor. But I didn't believe it. Scratching got worse. Not just louder, smarter. It happened only when I was alone, only when Dad was gone or passed out drunk. The kind of scratching that knew when someone was listening. One night I put my ear to the board again. Bailey, it whispered. I didn't sleep. The next morning I asked Dad about rats again. He didn't look up from his coffee. They don't talk, Bailey. Then he walked out the door. A week later, I came home from school and found dirt on my bed sheets. And a finger. Gray, small, curled like a comma. Human. The smell started that night. A sour, earthy stench like mushrooms rotting in a basement. I opened the window, stuffed dryer sheets under the bed. Nothing helped. Around 3 a.m. I heard it again. But it wasn't scratching anymore. It was knocking. 3 hard thuds on the underside of the floorboard. Then a whisper, hoarse and dry. Let me out. I bolted from the room and didn't come back until morning. When I lifted the board the next day, my phone was gone. In its place, a narrow tunnel lined with claw marks. Something had dragged itself up or down. I stared at the tunnel, heart jackhammering. I leaned closer. Whispers. Breathing. Then a voice. Familiar, worn, cracked with dirt. Don't trust him. My hands went numb. Kyle? No reply. Just the faint rustle of something shifting deeper in the dark. That afternoon, I confronted Dad. I showed him the finger. He didn't flinch. Just looked at it. Then me. Cold. You should have left it buried, he said. And walked away. I ran back to my room. But my bed was moved, the floorboard, gone. In its place was a square of fresh wood nailed down, sanded, clean. Except it wasn't. Because that night, I woke to a new sound. Not scratching, not knocking. A voice. From beneath the floor. Two voices. One was Kyle's. The other was mine. Let us out. I should have run. I should have called someone. But the voice that sounded like me wasn't possible. Unless something had been listening longer than I realized. That night, I dreamed of dirt. Black, endless. And voices in the dark. Hundreds of them whispering all at once. Telling me things. Teaching me how to dig. I woke up with the soil under my fingernails. My closet door stood open. Inside it, a square panel on the wall I'd never noticed before was ajar, another tunnel. This one wasn't dug, it was carved. I went to school like nothing happened. But something followed me, a shape in the window. My phone returned to my locker, buzzed with dozens of unread texts. From Kyle. From me. Just one message repeated. We're almost there. That night, Dad locked his bedroom. I waited until the scratching started again, this time from the walls. And I began digging too. The first wall I broke into wasn't empty. There were bones, small ones, curled in the plaster like someone had tried to hide a skeleton behind insulation. A child's jaw, tiny fingers, and worse, carvings in the wood beams beside them. Not names, symbols, spirals, eyes, something that looked like a spider with too many legs. I dropped the hammer and backed away, hands shaking. Whatever I had found wasn't Kyle, at least not yet. I tried to call the police. My phone didn't work, just static. Then it started buzzing again, non-stop. Hundreds of notifications. Every single one was a voice memo. I hit play. My voice, crying, screaming. No, 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 don't bury me again. I'm still here. I'm still alive. Then silence. Then dirt being shoveled. Then humming. Dad's voice. I didn't sleep after that. Couldn't. I stood in my room all night, hammer in hand, staring at the wall, at the panel in the closet, at the fresh floorboard. The house whispered now, all of it. The pipes moaned, the vents breathed, the windows ticked like nails tapping on glass. At dawn, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I thought it was Dad. But it wasn't. It was Kyle. Or something wearing his skin. Bailey, he said softly from the other side of the door. He did it to both of us. When I didn't answer, he kept talking. You think I'm the only one? Look under the stairs. Look in the crawl space. Look in the garden. Then he was gone. I didn't go to school that day. Instead, I went to the basement. Part No. 2. It's digging beneath my bedroom, Part 2. It started again at exactly 3:03 a.m. Scritch. Scritch. But this time, from the wall. Not the floor. I jolted upright, heart pounding so hard, it muffled the sound for a second. Then it came again. From the corner. The closet. The wall panel I'd never noticed until yesterday. Last night I thought maybe I imagined it. A weird dream. A side effect of guilt, stress, or maybe the mold Dad never bothered to have tested. But now, wide awake, I couldn't deny the sounds. Scritch, knock, whisper. We're almost there. It wasn't just Kyle's voice anymore. It was others too, voices I didn't recognize. Male, female, old, young. And one of them sounded like mine, but not me. Like a warped recording. Slightly off key. I shoved the bed across the room, grabbed Dad's crowbar from the garage, and forced the floorboard open again. Dirt. Nothing but dirt. The tunnel was gone, sealed, as if it had never been dug at all. But when I turned to the closet, I saw it, the panel, once slightly ajar, now wide open. And behind it, darkness. Endless. Breathing. I should have run. Instead, I grabbed my flashlight. The tunnel was narrower than I expected. Earth walls pressed close on either side, smearing my clothes with dirt and something sticky. After 10 feet, the tunnel widened into a cavity, a hollowed-out space beneath the house like a pocket of forgotten time. That's when I saw them. Shoes. A pile of them. Dozens. Kids' sneakers, sandals, even baby booties, covered in dust and dirt. then bones. Dozens, hundreds. I recognized Kyle's hockey bracelet, still clasped around a bony wrist. I dropped the flashlight. Something moved behind me. I turned. Eyes, dozens of them. All open, all human, embedded in the walls. Watching. Then a voice, whispering directly into my brain. He fed us, but now he forgets. My mouth opened. No sound came out. He gave you to us, but you heard us. You remembered. I scrambled backward up the tunnel, dropping my flashlight again in the panic. I clawed at the dirt, tearing my nails, dragging myself back into the room. The moment I reached the bedroom floor, the panel slammed shut behind me. But it wasn't over. Because when I turned around, Kyle was standing there. Or not as I remembered him. Taller, pale, eyes full of dirt. Dad made a deal, he said. He gave one of us every 7 years. He said it was the only way to keep the house, to keep you. I shook my head. No, you're not real. You're just... He stepped closer. The floorboards beneath him groaned. I died screaming, Kyle said. And he sat upstairs eating dinner, pretending it wasn't happening, pretending you were safe. Tears burned my eyes. My legs refused to move. But you let us in, Bailey. You dug too. You listened. Then his eyes rolled back and 1,000 whispers echoed from his open mouth. One more. Just one more. Then we rise. The floor buckled. And from below, hands burst forth. I woke in my bed. Sunlight. Birds. The hum of the fridge downstairs. Had it been a nightmare? I checked the floorboard, sealed. The closet, normal. Everything, as it had been. Until I noticed the phone. Back under my pillow. Screen cracked. And on it, one video recording. I pressed play. The footage was dark, fuzzy, dirt walls, flickering light. And my face holding the camera, whispering. They're under us, all of them, waiting. And now they have me. Then Kyle's face appeared, smiling. Behind him, Dad, holding a shovel. Sorry, Bailey, he said, but you dug too deep. The video cut to black. Then the scratching began again. This time, from the ceiling. That night, after Dad had locked his door, I sat in my room, heart hammering in my chest. The air felt thick, like it was charged with static, waiting for something to break. The scratching had grown louder again, this time coming from the walls. A low, persistent scrape that made my skin crawl. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight and crept to the corner of my room where the walls met the floor. I could hear the scraping now, clearer than ever, a steady rhythm like something or someone was trying to claw its way through. For a moment, I considered running, calling for help. But what could I say? Hey, something's scratching inside my walls, and my dead brother's been sending me messages on my phone. No, I couldn't explain that. Not to Dad, not to anyone. I shone the flashlight along the edge of the wall. The beam flickered, illuminating something that wasn't supposed to be there. A crack. Thin, jagged, running along the baseboard. I knelt down, hands trembling as I traced the crack with my fingers. It was soft, almost spongy, and the air near it was damp. The walls shouldn't feel like this. Nothing in the house should feel like this. But it did. The scratching from behind the wall was louder now, frenzied. Without thinking, I grabbed a knife from my desk drawer and started cutting at the crack. I had no idea what I was doing, but I couldn't stop. The walls trembled as if something was trying to break free on the other side. The knife sliced through the drywall easily, too easily. I pushed harder, forcing it through, until a chunk of the wall came loose, falling with a soft thud onto the floor. I stared at the hole I'd created. It was dark, pitch black behind the wall. Not just dark, the kind of dark that seemed to swallow light. The flashlight didn't penetrate it. It felt like there was nothing beyond the hole, like it didn't lead anywhere. I was about to pull away when a hand shot out from the darkness. A hand, long and thin, with yellow cracked nails, grabbed my wrist. I screamed, jerking my hand back. The hand didn't let go. I could feel it, cold and stiff, pulling me closer to the hole. In a panic, I slammed my hand into the hole, trying to push it away. My heart was racing as I tried to free myself. The hand pulled harder, then, as suddenly as it had grabbed me, it let go. I stumbled back, panting. And then, out of the darkness, something spoke. Come closer. I didn't want to. I didn't want to do anything. But the voice was too familiar, too haunting. Kyle, I whispered, barely able to form the words. A chuckle. Low, familiar. Don't trust him, the voice rasped. It wasn't Kyle's voice. It was mine. The same whisper. The same chilling tone. I froze, too terrified to move. My breath was shallow, but the air around me was thick with something dark, something wrong. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, suffocating me. The darkness in the hole shifted. And then, I saw them. Two eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The thing on the wall spoke again, this time clearer than before. It's time. The eyes in the wall flickered, and in an instant, the air around me grew even colder. The thing that had spoken, my voice, my words, was still echoing in the back of my mind, even as I tried to shut it out. The hand, the whispering, the dark void behind the wall. It all felt like a nightmare, but it was real. Real enough to touch me. Come closer, the voice repeated. But this time there was no hesitation. It wasn't just a suggestion anymore. It was a command. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to know what was in that hole. But my feet betrayed me. Slowly my body leaned forward. As though drawn by an invisible force, I couldn't stop myself. The darkness, the eyes, they were pulling me in, suffocating me in ways I couldn't explain. And then the voice changed. It wasn't just mine anymore. It wasn't just Kyle's. It was both. Let us out, it pleaded. Let us out, Bailey, I gasped. My hands shot up to my ears, trying to block out the sound. But no matter how hard I tried, it was in my head now. Not just words, not just sounds, but images, memories. My brother buried under the floor, buried in the dirt, calling to me from a place where light could never reach. And then I understood. It wasn't just Kyle down there. It was me, my own voice, calling from some deep, unnameable place beneath the house. I didn't know how, but I could feel it. My own echo in the darkness, as if I was down there, buried. Something pulled at the corners of my mind, some terrible memory that I couldn't quite reach. The floor beneath me creaked, a low, wet sound. I glanced down. There, in the dark hole I had torn open, was a shape, a body. It was slumped face down, motionless, but the skin was pale, unnaturally pale, and the fingers curled into the dirt, digging deeper into the ground. I recoiled, horrified, my breath catching in my throat. Then it moved. The body shifted. It didn't rise, didn't crawl. It shifted, as if something was beneath the skin, forcing it to bend, to twist. And that's when I saw it. The face. It wasn't Kyle. It wasn't me. It was both. The skin stretched, pulling apart at the seams like some grotesque stitchwork, as though two people had been forced together, entwined, merged, trapped forever in a single, horrible form. The eyes were half open, dull, clouded, but there was something in them, something unmistakable. Desperation. Bailey, it whispered again. I backed away, my legs trembling. The walls around me seemed to pulse like they were alive, like they were closing in. But the thing in the hole, my brother, or whatever had become of him, reached out. His hand was no longer human, was twisted, jagged, fingers broken and reformed into something unrecognizable. It lunged, but before it could touch me, the wall behind it cracked open. More hands. Dozens of hands, all reaching for me, clawing through the dark. No! I screamed. But the sound was swallowed up by the voices, hundreds of them, all shouting the same thing. Let us out! I ran. But I didn't make it far. The hands reached out, pulling me back into the hole, dragging me toward the rotting corpse, that had once been my brother. My body, my mind, every fiber of my being screamed in terror, but it was no use. The thing that had once been Kyle was stronger than me. The last thing I felt was its cold, cracked hand closing around my ankle. I woke up in darkness, cold, damp darkness. At first I thought it was a dream. I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't obey. My fingers trembled as I reached out, but all I could touch was wet dirt, the earth heavy against my skin. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And then I realized the truth. The truth that was worse than any nightmare. I wasn't just in the hole anymore. I was part of it. Part of the thing in the wall. The one that had reached out to me. The one that had always been there. Kyle's voice. My voice. We were them now. I felt the walls around me, my hands pushing against the wet earth. There was no escape. I was trapped. We were all trapped. From beneath the floorboards, a voice whispered, one last time, "Don't trust him." And then silence. Shh.